Darkness. Let them see who you really are, like I have.
The mind. Easily the most fascinating part of the human body, and our most important tool to help get through our daily lives. However, sometimes the hardest battles we fight as humans are the ones within our own mind. Mental illness and mental health are just as important to take care of as our physical health, and should be treated as such. And no one understood that more than the game studio Ninja Theory, known specifically for their rendition of DMC Devil May Cry. Yeah, that one. Director Tamim Antoniades embarked on creating a new IP that would soon later get a sequel in 2024. Enter Hellblade Senuas Sacrifice. What made the game super unique, though, was its focus on properly representing mental illness to be able to not only tell a story, but also be able to express a message about the importance of mental health. Why did I choose this game instead of the other games I did a poll for?
I was rooting for you! We were all rooting for you! How dare you!
Well, while I was recovering from surgery involving my wisdom teeth, I took the time to relax and recover and spend as much time as possible on two games, Remnant 2 and Hellblade. While replaying Hellblade, though, I remember exactly why I love this game so much so that I decided and wanted to express my love for this game, just in time for the preparations for the sequel coming out next year. I'm so excited to talk about this game, so let's not waste any more time. Join me as we explore how much of an inspiration and impact this game has had on me. This is my love letter to Hellblade Senuas Sacrifice. You know, for a game that came out in 2017, it's crazy how games of that year still hold up over time. Hellblade is no exception to this. The world of Hellblade is visually gorgeous, and what I'm still surprised about is how polished the game is. The only problems I came across is slow loading textures, but aside from that, the game looks still incredibly stunning. I know I joked about hyper-realistic graphics in video games before, but it's always impressive to me how much attention to detail there is to them, and they still manage to make a great art style to go with it. The world of the 8th century Norse Celtic folklore looks amazing, and the facial and character models still hold up tremendously. It's kinda crazy to me how a character like Senua can look 10 times better than a large majority of modern character models that we see today. What also makes Hellblade so unique is the game's usage of sight and sound. The usage of the environment around you as you explore this world and try to comprehend what's really going on is really a spectacle to behold. I'll explain more about it when we talk about the actual gameplay, but essentially, the best way to experience this game is to think outside the box. Visual perception and being able to detect things in the environment that normally shouldn't be there is something that sucks you into those worlds. It reminds me very much of one of my favorite puzzle games, Superliminal. Its usage of the environments and depth perception allows for creative ways of playing the game. Hellblade has that exact same feel with a whole new style and visual taste that sucks you in more and more as time goes by. Now, that being said, let's talk about the actual gameplay of Hellblade, as that's where the stuff that I mention here, as well as the gameplay itself, works together in harmony. When it comes to the gameplay of Hellblade, it's honestly pretty straightforward. However, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. So long as the game itself is fun and you keep it simple stupid, the game itself will be a good time regardless. The game's major mechanics focus on puzzle solving and melee combat. I want to talk about the combat first, as for me, it's not even the highlight of the game. Combat itself is extremely fun, and had a lot more combo variety than I initially remembered. You can tell how much DMC Devil May Cry had an influence on the game. There's light attacks and heavy attacks, and you can combo them together for different variations of attacks against the Northmen. The Northmen are the enemies that you fight and come in plenty of different varieties. Some with shields, some are big and tanky, and some are nimble and can become intangible. You also have a kick for breaking shields, a parry, and a focus mechanic, which slows down time, giving you a chance to strike back, or have a momentary breather. Each enemy encounter will have you focus on being able to fight a horde of these guys, dodging while doing so, but also relying on being aware of your surroundings. They don't move super fast, but they can swarm you, so it is important to be prepared for whatever comes your way. That's where sound comes into play though, as these voices in your head will tell you whether or not someone is behind you, or if you need to dodge.
Quickly get up! They're coming! She's injured! She can still do it!
Puzzle solving is the other part of the gameplay that you'll be experiencing here. Each new area that you'll discover has puzzles that involve looking for symbols and runes to open the door to get further into each level. What makes these puzzles unique though is that you don't need to find these symbols through normal means, as thinking outside the box and perception of everything around you that I mentioned before comes into play. Each puzzle can be solved through taking objects and aligning them together to create the symbol you're looking for in order to open the door. Those aren't the only puzzles that you'll encounter, however. There are puzzles that you have leaping between realms in order to open a part of the room that wasn't previously there, rooms where you'll have revolving hallways where you choose where to go correctly, rooms where you will be shrouded in total darkness and can navigate through some creepy abominations nearby, almost like a psychological horror game in a way. There's surprisingly a huge variety of puzzles, and I'm surprised by how much I ended up finding myself enjoying these. I normally don't play puzzle games because I find them very boring and not all that fun, but Hellblade's unique style and approach to puzzle solving makes for a very worthy experience. Also, just to add on to the melee combat, each time you get knocked down you have a chance to get back up, otherwise if you don't react quick enough you die. Hellblade's gameplay is a simple but fun experience that I have enjoyed the whole way through. However, what I believe to be the best part of the game isn't even all this. It's the story and the message that Hellblade tells. The story of Senua's Sacrifice is one of trauma, love, and promise. Of one's desperation and willing to risk it all for someone they love, but slowly destroying themselves while doing so. As you all know, I will be going into deep spoilers as I talk about the story, so if you don't want all the crazy spoilers, I'll leave the time code here, and you can come back and enjoy the rest of the video. Alright, here we go. The story essentially follows Senua on her quest to Helheim to save her husband from Hela's grasp. However, at the same time, she has this growing darkness taking her over, so she must fight back in order to save her husband. But what is this darkness? What are these voices, or furies as they're called? Well, to answer that would be to explain the mental condition that they decided to portray. Senua has psychosis, a mental disorder characterized by a disconnection from reality. Symptoms include hallucinations, agitation, aggression, and delusions. And it's all beautifully displayed throughout the entire game's story. The voices in her head, the symbols asking you what the numbers mean, things disappearing where it once was. It's all displayed, and it's refreshing to see how well it's done. That's also because they worked with close professionals in order to accurately portray this disorder, which I really love. Hell, even on occasions, every time you die, her arm progressively gets worse. I always saw this as the game communicating to you how much worse her mental state gets, and it kind of leaves you questioning whether or not if all of this is real, or it's just her own mind playing tricks on her. There's even some point of view shots where she looks directly at the camera, and almost as if she's breaking the fourth wall in a way. Anyway, as she's told to get to Helheim, she must kill two gods, Valrain, the god of illusions, and Surtur. Great boss fights, by the way. While all this is going on, though, we get to learn more and more about her past and her relationship with her husband. And this is where the game shines the most. The story's main contributing factor is in its main character. And as time goes on, she becomes one of the most well-written female characters I've ever come across. The story works the best when we get to know more about her, what happened to her, her family, her husband, and so on.
The darkness is inside you and it will destroy you.
You're a liar!
No, Senua. The darkness is here. You cannot wish it away.
The creatures you fight represent the Northmen that came and destroyed her village and killed her husband.
You still believe it is a lie. The plague of darkness, the butchering of Dillion by the Northmen. You saw it yourself.
It's even told that her mother had the same condition that she did, and that she went against the gods, and she's told that she will too when she reaches the Sea of Corpses. The darkness in question is just nothing more than her own thoughts consistently taunting her, telling her she can't do it and that she's not a true warrior despite the training that she endured. Even in moments when Hela is directly in front of her, she hesitates and loses her sword and punishes herself for it. I ended up really feeling sorry for her as it progressed, as it felt like she was trapped in her own mental cage, scratching to get out. And what made it interesting is that not only does it make it easy to connect with Senua, but it makes it easy to connect with the people that she loves, as it feels like she cherishes them. One other thing I'll mention too is the top-notch voice acting from our main lead. What's even crazier about that is that Senua's voice actress, Melina Juergens, has 0 voice acting credits to her name. She was originally made to be the pretty face to showcase Unreal Engine 4's capabilities at the time, while they found an actual voice actress. However, she just did that good of a job and won multiple awards for it, so they just kept her in. How impressive is that? As she progresses, she finds the sword Grammar, which is told to slay gods. It's her key to killing Hela, but to achieve this sword, she must complete the 4 trials of Odin in order to be worthy. Another detail I'd love to add is how much it represents Celtic and Nordic folklore beautifully. There's lore stones scattered around the game that tells the stories of Odin, Balder, Ymir, and Ragnarok. And it's such an interesting listen whenever you collect one.
The Northmen say that the defender of Muspel is called Surt, the foremost of the fire giants. His name means the Black One, because he is like something burnt. The Northmen believe that he sits at the border of Muspel with his flaming sword, and at the end of the world he will leave his post. He will travel to Asgard and Midgard, waging war against all the gods. He will be victorious.
Anyways, with Grammar in hand, she finally reaches Helheim to confront Hela once and for all. But before then, you run across in complete darkness, Alan Wake style, and fight its guardian, Fenrir. No, not that good boy, this Sleep Paralysis demon. After taking him out, she realizes that the voices in her head are a representation of her religious father's abuse, and it traps it in a mirror and finally reaches the gates into Hela's domain, who is clearly reminding Markiplier that he hates mannequins. She confronts Hela, rushing forward and fighting her undead legion, and wipes out as much as she can before she is eventually overwhelmed. Weakened and scared, she bargains with Hela and recalls memories with her husband Dillion as the imagery of Helheim fades away. The last scene has Hela stabbing Senua with Grammar and taking Dillion's head and dropping it into the abyss. But then the camera pans up to see Senua, as she gets up, tells the audience that there's another story to tell, tells you to follow her, and the story draws to a close. This ending is brilliant because ultimately it shows that Senua has come to terms with who she is and that she cannot bring her husband back. And also that she's not responsible for his or any other person's death. She banishes the darkness in her while doing so and comes to the realization that her furies, the voices, aren't a curse. They're a part of her. And she asks you to follow her. I love this ending and this story. Senua is so well written, the story is great, and the ending is brilliant and leaves the door open for what's to come. All while telling a beautiful message and leave it in all on such a wonderful, somber note. And that is Hellblade, a game that pleasantly surprised me looking back at it after all these years. To its simple and fun combat, clever puzzle and level design, and gripping story, my only other real complaint that I can think of is just how damn short it is. I beat it in like 9 hours or so, but if you know what you're doing and you unlock the puzzles quick enough, I think you can beat it in about 4 hours. Hopefully the sequel adds a lot more to it, as there's so much potential for what this series can accomplish. And the main reason why I love this game so much is the message that it brings to the table. As a guy who has and still suffers with mental health problems myself, I love what they accomplished here. And I hope they continue to create these beautiful stories and messages, not because they remember them, but because they're worth remembering. I got told recently that I was able to help somebody that was going through a mental rut, and that makes my heart melt more than anything. I won't name names, but I will leave off with this. To anyone out there who is suffering with mental problems and sees this, you are seen, you are loved, and you deserve nothing but the best in this world and the next. And that is my love letter to Hellblade Senuas Sacrifice.